Hari Om. Started the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. So now we are looking into so after gain in terms of Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, that means listening to the scripture for a prolonged length of time from a competent teacher. So how long is the question of how long has to dissolve. That means I have clear understanding has to be there without a doubt. And we'll go into later in terms of where the problems come into picture in spite of understanding. So we have a Srotavyaha, Mantavyaha, reflecting on the teaching. Yes, I have clearly understood I am Brahman. So that's essentially Mananam. So then comes a Nidhidhyasanam. So Srotavyaha, Mantavyaha, then scripture says Nidhidhyasitavyaha. We have to meditate on that. On what? What should I do meditation on? It says meditation on the teaching that is gained so far. Why do I have to meditate? It depends upon the nature of the student now. We have categories of the students. So Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari and Mandamadhikari. So one who has Uttamadhikari, one who is prepared his mind completely. What kind of preparation? We already talked about fourfold qualifications are required in terms of Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumutshutvam. They are completely purified. He doesn't want anything other than this knowledge. And therefore, it is like a Nachiketas. Nachiketas in the Kathopanishad, the student, a boy of 9-year-old, goes all the way to Yamaloka and waits there for 3 days. And when the Yama shows up, because he was busy somewhere else, and Yama apologizes for he kept a Brahmin boy outside for 3 days without having a food or something. Therefore, he gives him 3 bones. So ask 3 bones because you are there for waiting for me for 3 days. And Nachiketas asks the 3 bones, as a part of the last bone, he says, I want Brahma Vidya. Says the Yamadharmaraja tries to offer him everything else and try to tempt him to go after Atma Vidya because he wants to test because he was a boy of 9-year-old only, he wants to test how pure the boy is. And the Nachiketa is so pure, he has no interest in any other things, and therefore he realizes, Yama realizes that Nachiketa is a suitable student for Brahma Vidya. And once he has gained the knowledge, the Shrotavyam, itself by listening to the scripture to the teacher itself is sufficient for Nachiketas to gain the knowledge. That is for the Uttamadhikari. And most of us fall in the Madhyamadhikaris, where we, depending upon the gradation level, Madhyamadhikari is very big, long range, and where depending on the purity of the mind, then listening the scriptures will be helpful. But even one understanding of many years, all doubts are cleared. Yes, I am that Brahman. Then what else I have to do now? The very question itself implies that he has not understood Brahman. Why? Because if I am Brahman, what else I have to do now means I am still a doer. Means there is a doership notion. That means I am still limited. So I cannot be Brahman because Brahman cannot do anything. That's interesting. Once I recognize I am Brahman, it's not meaning the knowledge of Brahman, it is becoming as though. The scripture calls it Brahmavit, Brahmaiva Bhavati. Knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Knower of object doesn't become that object. Knower of chemistry doesn't become chemistry himself, or knower of any science doesn't become that science. Knower of Brahman becomes a Brahman because the knowledge is not some Brahman knowing or some objective knowledge. It is an understanding that I am Brahman is the knowledge. So when I say I am Brahman, I was Brahman, I am Brahman, I will be Brahman only, it cannot be changing. That means eternally Aham Brahma, I am Brahmasmi is to be understood as eternally I was Brahman. I had some wrong notions in between, and therefore wrong notions are dropped out. I am back to myself. That's what has to be understood. So if that is crystal clear, then Srotavya is enough, and you don't need any other knowledge after that, because you are firmly established on that. But if I am not completely sure, reflecting on the teachings, Mantavya is required. Even after reflecting on the teachings, one says, has clear understanding of what the Vedanta says, because they have learned many years and years of study of Vedanta. They have understood Aham Brahmasmi, and they can even give talks also, and I am Brahmasmi, I am the Brahman, I am not this, I am not this, and so forth. But still, there is still, when you're transacting in the world, the knowledge is not abiding in the oneself. Therefore, I take myself habitually that I am this, because I cannot but transact in the world. And when I'm transacting the world, the knowledge that I am Brahmasmi, that I cannot really transact in the world, therefore world is not really real, and even the transactions are also have to be apparent transactions. Therefore, I should never be unaffected, but ups and downs of the transacting world. If I am affecting or if they are affecting me, then that means the knowledge has not been synced in. That's why the knowledge is called the Paroksha and Aparoksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam is the knowing itself. That is definitely, simple example I give is that, my friends went to Latin America, and they came back after a trip. I asked, how was it, what's beautiful, what do you remember, and all that I was asking, and they described everything was beautiful. But the most interesting thing is, we saw one beautiful bird, because they are bird watchers, we are all in the same company, and it says so beautiful. And so what's so beautiful about that bird that I have not seen other birds? It's called Agau bird. Agau bird, yes, it's A-G-A-U, is called Agau bird. So what is special? It has two wings, and one is made up of silver, and another is made up like a gold, and it's a very strange bird. It's a small bird, yet it is shining because of the two wings. One is of the gold color, another is of the silver color. A-G stands for the silver, and A-U stands for the gold. That's why it's called Agau bird. Really? So he gave me the full description of how the bird looks, what is the size of the bird, and how the wings are. Every description of the Agau bird is there. Now I have the knowledge. What kind of knowledge I have? This is called Paroksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam is, I have complete information about the Agau bird. But when I go to Latin American country for my own vacation, and I was going around, and I remembered my friends talking about Agau bird. I was curious to find out where the bird is, and I found out where the birds occur. And when I went and saw, suddenly I saw a bird coming. One bird coming is exactly have the silver one side wing and silver the gold one side. Immediate knowledge. What is that knowledge? Yes, this is a Agau bird that my friends have been talking about. So now that was a Paroksha Jnanam has become Aparoksha Jnanam. It's a direct, immediate, and I have the background information about the knowledge, and I know everything about the bird before, but now I am seeing directly, and I am experiencing as though the bird that is right there. Now I know not only the Paroksha, but Pratyaksha directly also. I have the knowledge of this. It's called Pratyaksha Jnana, because I can directly see. Not even Aparoksha, it is Pratyaksha Jnana. Before that it was indirect knowledge. Now I have a direct knowledge. Pratyaksham is direct perceptual knowledge, and it is immediate and direct. As soon as I open my eyes, if the mind is behind me, and if I am awake, conscious entity, and the eyes are open and the object is there and the object is being illumined by the sufficient light there, I cannot but see the object. There is no choice in that. It is not that, no, I don't want to see and I am looking at it, I don't want to see, and as long as my mind is behind my eyes, I cannot but see. It's not the Purusha Tantram. Purusha Tantram means it's not depends upon my will. I may refuse to claim that I am not seeing. So a lot of the Advaitins, they refuse to listen even though they understand a little bit because of their own vasanas. But here it says, I cannot, pratyaksha means I cannot but see, because it doesn't depend upon the individual to see or not to see. As long as my instruments are working, pramana working, I cannot but see, provided my mind is also available to listen. If the mind is somewhere else and have some other thoughts, then even though I am seeing, I am not registering in the mind. Information is not fed into the mind because mind is busy with something else. So a lot of people don't listen to the talks because the mind has gone somewhere, even though physically they are there and looking at you, and eyes are open, ears are open, but mind is not open because mind has gone somewhere. So knowledge is not a Purusha Tantram. It is not a Purusha Tantram, means it doesn't depend upon the will of the student. It will come only to those minds which are well prepared. That's what is called Saraswati, has to descend when I do proper prayer. Proper prayer is not doing arati to Saraswati, the Devi, and then go to, so we used to do that when we have examination. We used to go to temple, oh Lord, please make sure that we pass examination. So we will definitely pass if we do proper prayer. Proper prayer involves Shraddha. Shraddha what? About the means of knowledge, about the pramana. Pramana means I had to study, open, listen to the talks and reflect on the talk. That is when the mind is prepared enough for the goddess Saraswati to bless us. So blessing of the Lord is not going to the temple or something. They may help prepare the mind so that mind becomes a calm and quiet so that I can study properly. So preparation of the mind is required, but at the same time knowledge is not, depends upon the individual. It has to sink in. So in the same way, Aham Brahmasmi understood clearly by Vedanta, Savanam and Mananam, but it's not become one with me. That's called Jnana Nishtha. That's called Sthita Prajnaha. The words are used where form abidance in the knowledge, and Krishna gives gives us the elaborate description of Sthita Prajna not only in the 2nd chapter, again in the 12th chapter, and also in the 14th chapter, description of the state of understanding by the Jnani. So that is called Jivan Mukta, and the one who has established, understood, not only I am Brahman, understood, but recognition that I am not, I am also Brahman. That comes only provided my mind is pure. Because since most of this, the Madhyama, the students are in the middle stages, have already started listening to the scriptures before complete purification of the mind. Therefore, even though they have purified mind enough to listen, but it's not helpful to abide in the knowledge. Because the abidance is due to habitual misconceptions are so deep-rooted. How long they are deep-rooted, and that's what is going to be discussed from now on. Here in these slokas of the Vivekachudamani, is talking about 268 of the Vivekachudamani, and it talks about what is the liberation, and see, the Brahmatmana samsitaha muktihi. So one who is samstita, from abidance is the liberation. Mukti means the liberation is Brahma Atmana samsitaha. So I am that Brahman has to be abiding in that. So this does not occur because for most of the people, because the mind is not really completely prepared. So for preparation itself, for listening to the scriptures, I have to prepare the mind and listen, and otherwise the knowledge will not sink in, as internalizing the knowledge will not happen. So if my mind is not prepared, should I listen or not? That was a question posed by students of Vedanta. He says, do I first wait until my mind is prepared? How the mind is prepared? Through Karma Yoga and through Upasana Yoga. Because my mind is so agitated, I cannot even sit in the class comfortably. It will be restless, and I won't feel it. I won't understand anything because my mind is running all over. I think the whole people are wasting their time listening here. They should better go and do something else, and that's much more beneficial. Who thinks like that? The one who has not prepared his mind and who thinks the other things are more important, that his priority is not there in the Vedanta, because he still thinks that happiness comes from outside and there is no point in sitting here. For those people, you cannot even ask them to sit. Even if you take them, next day they won't even show up. They become so restless. But those who can sit through the class, at least for that 1 hour, and listen to the scriptures, that means the mind is prepared enough to listen and understand enough to listen. At the same time, it's not abiding in the knowledge. Therefore, why? Because there are still remnant ragadveshas. Means those people who have, should I listen or not? You go and listen. If you can, if you become restless, get out of it until again you prepare your mind through Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and then you will be able to at least sit through the class. And whenever I am ready to listen to the scriptures, then other things I have to slowly stop, and listening becomes a more and more. For those who are not prepared, if they, because of the faith, if they sit through the class, at least they will get some punyam, which will have punya karma, punya phalam, if not in this life, in the next life. But those who have prepared the mind by the nishkama karma, by the non-desire prompted selfless actions, when they prepare your mind, then at least you will understand more and more as you go deeper and deeper. So constant listening to the scriptures, satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktaha. So Shankaracharya gives a stages as though by satsang is listening to the teacher, where a commitment is required. A commitment is a mentally, physically, all that is required, and one has to study the scriptures every day at least for 1 hour to establish himself, to keep reminding the teaching, and not only listening and reflecting on the teaching is required, and slowly the mind will sink in. So we'll analyze it. Where are the problems? Says, people say, I have been to Vedanta for many years. So have you realized that you are Brahman? They are not confident to say that I am realized, because the mind is still wrong. And says, I understood Vedanta, but now I have to sit down and meditate on it. That means I have not completely understood. That means the mind is not prepared very well. And why? Because the habitual notions that I am the body, mind and intellect are so deep rooted. So how do we get rid of the habits? Habits are very difficult to get rid of. The Swami Chinmayananda used to tell that habit, H-A-B-I-T or H-A-B-B-I-T, depending upon whether you are English speller or the American English or English. So habit, if you remove a little bit H, a bit still remains, A-B-B-I-T remains. If you are English, you have to do a lot more because you have too many bits there. So for habit, even if you remove H, a bit still remains. A-B-I-T will still remain. Even if you remove A, it is B-I-T still remains. And if you are English, your B-B-I-T will remain. If you remove one B, still B-I-T bit remains. If you remove B also, still it remains. So only way for complete removal of that is the little I, the ego, has to completely surrender to the T, which is the truth. Then only the habits will completely go. And that's what is the habitual notions here. But this notions are because there are lingering vasanas, and the type of lingering vasanas vary from a seeker to seeker, depending upon from what background he is approaching and from what background he is coming through. Those people who are emotionally oriented, they have to develop the intellectual aspect of it. Those who are only intellectual, they have to develop the emotional aspects also in order to gain complete knowledge. As Swami Chinmayananda used to say, I need the two wings of the bird, where I need the both wings to take off. It is like the one side is the emotional mind, another side is the intellectual mind. Both have to join together for me to take off the flight, and that has to be understood. So this process of Nidhidhyasana is not a discrete event. The knowledge, it can take place slowly by srotavya, by listening to scriptures for a prolonged length of time. You have studied prolongly. Now I have no doubts about it. I have clear understanding, but it's not sinking in. It's not internalized. It's only remaining as the indirect knowledge. So to make it as a direct, as I am that, I am the Brahman, to claim without any doubts at all, for me, I had to remove all these vasanas have to be removed. So, because why vasanas are there? Whenever there is a lingering vasanas contribute to the desires at the intellect level, desires at the agitations at the mental level, and agitations into actions, and the actions will give you more vasanas, and this goes on and on and on. Krutimaho dadau patana karanam. Because these actions will give you the more vasanas, and you get entangled again and again. One side I have a knowledge, other side I am getting involved more and more. So this has to slowly withdraw, has to be done. Therefore sannyasa is recommended, but the sannyasa, if not physically, the mentally I have to denounce myself with the complete activities, withdraw myself, and slowly abiding in the knowledge. So how do I about it? At constant study of the scripture should continue as one part of the Nidhidhyasana. And we'll go more into this Nidhidhyasana and where the problems are, what are the obstacles for spiritual growth. All that will be discussed from now on, and that's where we'll stop right now, and we'll continue after this. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.